After 10 months of negotiations, the EU-UK trade agreement broke through. The EU feels confirmed by the result. They can take 3 lessons from the deal with the British. The negotiators had long since stopped counting the broken deadlines. In the course of negotiations between the EU and Great Britain, London has missed deadlines so often that the Europeans could only react with humour. The missed deadlines turned into a running gag, says an EU diplomat about the game with supposed end dates which will come to an end after Thursday's breakthrough. Shortly before the end of the year, and again later than expected, the long-awaited agreement on a trade deal between the EU and Great Britain was reached on Christmas Eve at 2:44 p.m. CET. After the summer break in September at the latest, the Europeans were certain that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted a deal, despite the public tumult, which repeatedly pointed in a different direction. But even when a breakthrough seemed within reach on Tuesday evening, it took not just one night but until the following afternoon before both sides could announce an agreement. It was worth fighting for this agreement, said a visibly relieved EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. For the EU, 3 lessons can be learned from the tough struggle. Lesson 1. The unity of the EU lasted to the end and paid off. It was one of the biggest mistakes made by Prime Minister Johnson to assume that the EU27 could be divided on the subject of Brexit. Even during the exit negotiations, this tactic did not work, as Johnson's predecessor Theresa May discovered. In the early stages of the negotiations, the chief negotiator at the time had travelled to Berlin and tried to pull the German automobile manufacturers over to the British side. That failed. Johnson wanted to break the unity of Europeans and talk with Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron in mid-December. Both coolly rejected the conversation and pointed out that it was not they who negotiated, but the EU Commission in Brussels for all 27 EU member states together. The unity was unusual because mostly diverging interests allow the member states to take different positions. The current negotiations between the EU and China show that the member states weight human rights and economic interests differently. In the case of Brexit, the EU member states understood early on that they could win with a uniform appearance. The 27 EU member states also agreed from the start that a member state like Ireland deserved more solidarity than a departing partner. The Brexit case should show the EU member states how strongly they can act all over the world if they act in concert. And lesson 2, Great Britain. Oh, I just realized what I did. And that's a cultural problem. In Germany like this, you show the number 2. I know what it means in Great Britain, and I didn't mean it that way. But I still got to leave this in the video, so it really shows cultural differences. The difference it makes that I lived in the UK just shows that I know what that means. But for a German, it just would mean that I show you the number 2. But I'll do it this way then. So lesson 2. Great Britain is the loser in the negotiations. The loss for the EU is limited. Hardly anyone has read the 1300 pages of the negotiation text that could contain one or the other stumbling block. I haven't read it all yet either. But I will, I promise. But the broad lines of the deal already show that Britain will not emerge victorious from the deal. Even if no customs duties are due on British goods in the EU from January 1st, trading will still be more difficult. Customs formalities will slow down the exchange of goods and make them more expensive. Leaving the single market will be just as disadvantageous for airlines as it is for freight companies. And for citizens, there will be drawbacks that have so far clearly illustrated the added value of the EU. British holidaymakers will in future have to pay roaming costs in the EU when they make calls or surf the web with their mobile phones, unless the British companies stick to their promise not to charge them with it, but they lost the right to roaming free travel. British students can no longer participate in the popular Erasmus exchange program. The Brexit process has swallowed up too many resources for the EU to declare itself the winner. In relative terms, however, the loss of a member state changes far less for the community than it does for the UK when it leaves. Besides the fact that there are more than 2 candidates that already want to join the EU, and it will grow in the future. While the shock in Brussels was still great in 2016 that a member state wanted to leave, the event has now been put into perspective. After many in Brussels found the British negotiating behavior alien to the last moment, the willingness to let them go has grown considerably. And lesson 3, there is little incentive for other EU countries to follow the British example. Shortly after the Brexit referendum in Great Britain, there was fear in Brussels that other countries might follow the British example and would also leave the EU. But the opposite has happened. Brexit developed into a chilling example. Even in EU-skeptical countries such as Poland and Hungary, leaving the EU is not a serious issue. So far, there are no signs that Great Britain will benefit from the regained sovereignty that is so often quoted. The corona crisis, on the other hand, offers the EU the opportunity to demonstrate its added value. Great Britain may have started vaccinating against COVID-19 earlier, but a drug agency that is reviewing drug approvals for 27 member states has great potential for efficiency gains. The EU Commission has also achieved a better price for their joint purchases of vaccines than a single country like Great Britain. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen rightly said that it was time for the EU to leave Brexit behind and look ahead. The core challenge will be to create real added value. And what I always mention again, and the long needed reforms of the EU. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my other channels. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.